Today we're going to be reviewing Questrade. I've been using Questrade for many years, as well as a few of other platforms that I use for investing. I'm more of a passive investor myself, but I use derivative markets. I use registered accounts. I use margin accounts. I use a lot of different accounts. And so I've had my experience and my connection with customer service and all sorts of things with all of these different types of investment platforms. And so I kind of have a good feeling of which ones are good for which type of investor. And so I'd like to just review Questrade with you and just really give you just a bird's eye view and kind of give you a little bit more insight into what to expect, especially after you've used it for a long period of time. A lot of videos that I've seen have just been, looking at here's how you open an account and click my link down below. Those kinds of videos, which I do have a link down below if you want to be able to save and actually have a little bit extra money that you get put into your account. It's at no cost to you, but they are affiliate links, and it's just a way to incentivize people communicating about the product because you get a little bit, and then the person that refers the person gets a little bit, just like if you refer someone to your bank. It's that kind of thing. So just getting into it, let's dig right into it. So let's get into the meat and potatoes here. So Questrade, trading fees. One of the first things that I'd like to cover is usually around fees. Because honestly, a lot of these products, they kind of tend to do the same thing. But the fees tend to be quite expensive in some of them. So Questrade is fairly reasonable with their fees. You can see here that with their trading fees, when it comes to stocks, you've got 1 cent a share with a minimum of $5. That tends to be pretty beneficial to a maximum of $10. So that's really nice, knowing that they have that option, especially if you're a smaller trader. That $5 is really nice. And then I like that when when you're buying an ETF, you can see here that it is completely free. And so this is the beauty of it, is that when I buy an ETF, the fact that I can get it for free, and then when I go to sell it, I'm selling it, and usually let's say it's the $5 because it's a smaller share amount. So if I have $5 that I'm spending, that's $2.50, right, per transaction. So that's actually not bad. That's actually really inexpensive. When you go to a lot of the major banks, the fees that I've been seeing, at least in Canada, have been, closer around that $10 range. Some maybe are getting a little bit more competitive, but ultimately that's kind of the cost structure. So the fact that Questrade can do that really puts itself ahead of the game. And then when you get into other things, like you get into like options trades, the fact that you can, you're getting into $10 and then you got plus $1 a contract. That's really expensive in my mind. There are other platforms that I think are a little bit more cost effective when it comes to options trades. So I don't often use options trading within my Questrade account unless there's some other type of reason why I would need to, which I will explain. A really cool thing called tax-free savings account, like with their margin power. That's a really cool feature. I'll talk about that in a minute. But just going down the list here for costs, they do have FX trading, not really too familiar with that, so it's not something that I tend to do. Their GICs are fairly reasonable. It's not bad. They do have a lot of different things on the market, which is quite beneficial. Not really a big fan of the bonds and the way that you get those. I'm not really into doing a lot with the bonds. But other than that, just getting into regular trading tends to be okay. And then just getting into the various types of accounts, they do have pretty much everything that you're looking for. So there's everything from, the RRSPs, the first home savings accounts. So they have those right here, first home savings accounts. So there's a lot of really cool things that they do have in regards to that, and a lot of various trading platforms. They all kind of tend to have most of those various types of accounts that you can open. Another interesting thing to think about is that When it comes to investing, there's a technique called Norbert's Gambit. I'll leave a link to a resource that explains it down below. But basically what it does is when you're actually trying to exchange your, say, Canadian dollars to US dollars to buy US type of companies, you can actually save a lot of money on that conversion rate. So instead of just like exchanging your money from Canadian to American when you're inside of the account to be able to purchase stuff on the New York Stock Exchange, for example, you can actually use a technique called Norbert's Gambit where you end up buying something called DLR.to, and then you do a journaling. And so anyways, you can take your Canadian dollars and you journal them into US dollars. And there's a really, really, really low fee for doing that. And so that tends to be a favorite amongst a lot of people that use Questrade and are getting into things within the American economy, or just getting into to investing that way, and just having your money in that denomination. So that's something good to keep in mind. Another thing to kind of think about here is when it comes to the platforms, I've used a lot of their different platforms. So I've used their regular investing platform on my phone. I've used their Edge platform on my phone. I've used their regular web version on the computer. I've used their Edge version on the computer. So for me, I'm just going to flip to my screen here. You can see this is the Edge. I tend to use Edge. I guess after doing stuff within the derivatives markets and stuff like this, I tend to use this, and I like it because you can customize all of the different types of information that you want to see. A lot of people do this for like more day trading and stuff, but even when you're just wanting to have a bird's eye view of all the information that you want to see, if you really want to get nerdy, you just basically open up and set up all the different screens so you can have a good look at it. But for the most part, for people that are passive investing, just going on the web is good enough. The mobile phone, I really like the Edge, just because of the way everything kind of is laid out, and how you can invest and how you can just see your investments. So it's pretty good that way. There are a few little bugs here and there with the product, and sometimes I've talked to customer service. They do try to do their best to help you out, but there's just sometimes a little bit of a buggy system. When I say that, everybody's going to want to know in more detail what that means. It's really hard to put your finger on it. I've traded options within the account before, and it just didn't understand that I was putting on a particular strategy, and so I had to call their customer service so that the system could acknowledge it. So that's happened once. Has it happened frequently? Not too often, but depending on what you do, sometimes you see that, or maybe you have to close down the program, open it up, that kind of thing. Those kinds of things have happened. If you're looking for something that is really just like clean, simple for a beginner investor, and you're wanting to look at something else, I have another video where I review Wealthsimple, but if ease of use is the factor that you're after, Wealthsimple is taking the cake in that regard for me, just because they have just such a simple platform. And when you navigate through everything, I've never had even one glitch through their whole software. So I've always found that it's just so user friendly. Sometimes I feel like when I'm investing, I'm just like when you go and you do your banking online on your phone, I feel like I'm just doing my banking. I'm like, what the heck? I just bought a stock and I transferred money from this account to that account, and it's like all just done so smoothly. So it's kind of interesting. Questrade has been pretty good that way too. But I would say it's got its little quirks. So, for example, if you want to transfer funds from one account to another, if I'm trying to find that on the mobile app, as of right now when I recorded this video, I couldn't seem to figure out how to get the funds that way. I had to go onto the web and actually do that transfer there. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But I do like it because, if you go to something like Wealthsimple, you're not going to get the Edge. You're not going to get something with like a software like this. And so that's something I don't really find too often with Wealthsimple. Just having, I don't know. It feels like you can do more with Questrade Edge than if I have something like Wealthsimple. There's more data I can pull and more things like that. But getting into that, another thing to kind of factor in is market data. And so if you look at market data, for those that are trading just passively, I mean, the market data that you have with Questrade is okay. They have these snap quotes. So I tend to use those. I don't like the cost. If you can see, the costs are really expensive here for their market data. There's other programs that you can get, third-party programs that are pretty good for things for market data. Or there's other actually investment platforms that tend to have a better rate for those kinds of things, in my opinion. But they have a snapshot, which is completely free. So, if I'm going to buy something like an ETF, I just click snapshot and then it gives me the exact cost, what the buy and or what the bid and the ask is right at that second. And so, that's when I'm logging in and just kind of doing my one trade or two trades or three trades or whatever it is. That's convenient. And I'm a passive investor. If you're like an active day trader type thing, you're not going to want that. You're going to want something like the market data. So they have kind of made it fairly fair in that regard. The fact that you don't even necessarily have to have something third party if you just want to do snap quotes and just kind of put on your trades and try to get, not taken advantage of in the spread, as they say. So then the other thing I want to talk about is their margin rates. So if you look at this, they've got things in here for, stocks and bonds. They tend to be fairly good. If you're into, the S&P 500, one of the really cool things here is, their reduced margin eligibility for the security is actually like 20%. I don't know why it's not at the 30%. So that's something that's really cool. And then if you get into things like the options, it tends to be fairly reasonable, quite standard across the board for a lot of this. A lot of these things are also regulated as well too. So if you're getting into different types of levels of options trading, I'm not going to get into bore anybody with that, but it tends to be fairly reasonable. The only thing that I would look at here is their interest rates are fairly high. This is the rate, and again, I'm glad they put the date because depending on where the interest rates are really determines what this would look like. But their interest rates in comparison to other products like Interactive Brokers, which I'll leave a link for them down below. And I'm going to be having a video on that, reviewing them as well too. So you can check that out all at aaronthepassiveinvestor.com. You can see all the things that I use. But they tend to be a lot lower in that regard. So so there is that as well. Another thing I don't really like too much about, Questrade is when it comes to futures, you can't actually get into the futures market. Again, that's more for experienced people. Another really cool thing that they have with Questrade is they have the ability to have margin power against your tax-free savings account, which is really unheard of. I couldn't find anything like that with any other product. And so it's really cool. So if you have like a margin account with Questrade and you have a tax-free savings account with them, you can actually link them together. And so you can have money that's actually growing tax-free. But let's say you capped out your money within your tax-free savings account. And now you're wanting to, or let's say you want to put on a trade and you want to use a little bit of margin power. Well, you can do that in a margin account. And for those of you that are a little bit more experienced and you do options trading, you know that you're not actually using your money in there. So you can actually use and put on options trades, right? Without having to actually pay any interest on that position, as long as when you go to to close out all of your trades, you're not negative within your account. So if you have like negative numbers, let's say the options have been put against you, you're going to pay interest on whatever negative portion of cash you have in your account. But the cool thing about margin power is, you can actually have your trades on, and then you can do something like that within a margin account levied against your tax-free savings account. Again, that's a little bit more advanced. I wouldn't say that most people should look at that, but if it's something like, as when you're looking into all these various accounts, that is a really good competitive thing. So some of the key things that differentiators that I do like about Questrade is you have the ability to do something like Norbert's Gambit, where something like Wealth Simple, you simply just can't do that. You have to pay a really high fee to be able to get into U.S. equities and trading on the New York Stock Exchange. But then getting into things like margin power, having that tax-free savings account, and having that margin power is by far like one of the coolest things that I've ever seen in a product. So I love that Questrade is very innovative, and their platform is fairly reasonable. They're very competitive in the market. They're a strong player. I do use them. I like using them with having my registered accounts. I really like that tax-free savings account option. And then when I look at things like the fact that you can't go into the futures market, and that there are some bugs, when it comes to some of the complex trades or different things that I've done. And then also the component of, there's slightly higher costs when you look at things like options or other things like how much you pay in interest if you are using margin power, that kind of stuff. So those are all of the things that I would say kind of make me want to go to more of like Interactive Brokers, and why I use Interactive Brokers primarily right now for my margin accounts. So I find that there is a sweet spot for Questrade for me. And I think that they're really good for somebody who's maybe a beginner and they're wanting to get a little bit more into investing, because they are well-rounded, so they're really good for that reason. But if somebody's just wanting to be a new investor, I think that something like Wealth Simple is fairly good. If you're actually actively trading and doing a lot of like complex trades already, and already getting slammed with a bunch of fees, and you're doing options and you're getting into futures and whatever else that is, there are products out there like Interactive Brokers where they're just built different from the ground up. Even when you're looking at their software and the way that they show you the trades before you put them on and stuff like that, there's just a lot more cleaner ways of looking at those complex things. So I really hope that was beneficial to somebody. Again, leave a like and comment if you like. Sorry if I'm not as polished as some other people here on YouTube. I do try my best to put videos out, and if you are interested in helping to support this channel and support what I'm doing, and you are wanting to get into something like Questrade, and this actually video kind of helped you out to sort of make that decision, I do have a link down below. You do get a perk for signing up. You do get some money in your account for doing that. So why not take advantage of something like that if you're going to open the account already? And if you're wanting to check out my video on Wealth Simple or Interactive Brokers, you can do that as well too. And anyways, I'm looking forward to see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.